Joining us today is Isis So, who is a master's student at the Institute of Medical Sciences at the University of Toronto. We heard all about her current work studying traumatic brain injuries with MRI in our previous episode. In this video, we will be diving into her undergrad research experiences and her tips on finding enriching mentorship opportunities.
Isis, you've had some experiences in undergrad doing research, and your first publication was actually in the Journal of Undergraduate Life Sciences. Could you tell us a bit about that research and how you found yourself doing that research during undergrad?
Sure. So the publication in JULS, it was a news article, and it was kind of a summary piece almost of this symposium event that we attended, that a group of students, including myself, attended. And this was back in, I think, November or December 2018 that we attended the symposium. It was an event by the Medicine by Design. And so during that conference, they had speakers from different places, international speakers, but also local speakers, local scientists, and international scientists come and talk about their work. It was in the field of stem cells, and it was really interesting because a lot of their work also had a clinical aspect, and it was very translational based. So it wasn't entirely basic sciences, but it wasn't just clinical as well. So it was kind of a medium in between, and they were talking about their work and how that impacts the field and things like that. And it was a really unique experience in that for me, and I think for many of the students who I attended the conference with, it was our first time attending anything like that before. It was a really interesting experience, and it was also a really great learning opportunity. And I think after that, we decided to write up our experiences and write up what was talked about, and then we submitted to the Journal of Undergraduate Life Sciences. And the idea to do a writing project like that actually came from one of the faculty advisors on the stem cell and developmental biology disciplinary focus in the Department of Cell and Systems Biology at U of T. And that focus group, that disciplinary focus group, is like a group of 30 students that's led by 2 faculty advisors. Throughout my undergrad from years 2 and 3, I had the privilege to be a part of that focus. And overall, my goal in that focus was to try to get a sense of the field and whether I liked the work that was being done and whether I could see myself in the field in the future. Before I joined the focus, I knew that I liked research, and I knew that I could picture myself in a career in science somehow, but I didn't know, where to start. I knew I liked neuroscience, but I also knew I liked cell and molecular biology. I didn't know what I was better at, what I was poor at. I didn't know any of that and my interests and everything. And so I wanted to, be involved in as many things as I could to try to fish out what my interests were. And so that was kind of how I became involved in the focus. And then when that writing project opportunity came up and the opportunity to attend the conference also came up, that was a really nice intersection, I guess. That kind of sums up that publication. And in terms of my research experiences, which really tie into what I've been talking about discovering my interests, I think something that I think I did well in undergrad is using my summers to do research and to try different things. Because I would say pretty much every summer of my undergrad, I did research, but I did it in a different lab and I did it in a different field. And because of that, I was able to kind of parse out what I liked and what I didn't like, what types of working environments that I also enjoy being in. And I think from all of those experiences, that's how I was able to determine that I actually really like neuroimaging and clinical work, to the disappointment of, one of my mentors, that I didn't really like basic sciences. So I guess moral of the story is try different things and don't be afraid to try different things. And sometimes it takes actually physically trying something to know whether you actually like it or not.
Would you say that your mentors, as you just mentioned, played a role in helping you to foster that kind of mindset and also figure out what you're more interested in?
Definitely. I think it's important to point out I didn't just have one mentor, and I think that's why my undergrad experience was so enriching. My mentors definitely played a role in encouraging me and giving me opportunities. And when they saw my interest in a particular area, they really invested in me and gave me opportunities to try it and to try working there, or to try, to try what it was really like, almost like a day in the life. And I think those experiences and those opportunities that they gave me, I think that's what really helped me to understand what I liked and what I didn't like. Probably one of my most influential experiences in my undergrad was working at a wet lab at U of T through an NSERC scholarship. And that experience was really, really awesome in that I got to try what it was like to be in a wet lab, and we did really great work. But it was also how I figured out that I didn't like being in a wet lab, even though, it wasn't very ideal at the time. But that was how I figured out I don't want to go this route for grad school. If I don't enjoy it now, chances are if I stayed at it for 2 years, 5 years down the line, I would be very miserable. But then at the same time, I would also say, working at another lab, the lab that I'm currently in, that was how I figured out that I like neuroscience and clinical work. And then combined with my coursework, that was how I identified that I like neuroimaging. And together, that was how I realized, okay, maybe I can do something like that for my master's for grad school. Where I am now, looking back, I think it was a long road to kind of figure out what I enjoy doing, but definitely worth it in the sense that I'm pretty happy doing a master's in what I'm doing now. And I also have to say, a lot of my mentors, in addition to just giving me those opportunities and investing in me, they also they were really great. They are really great role models and women in STEM. And I think that's something also that that really impacted me, not just my academic growth, but my personal development as well.
For our undergraduate viewers, do you have any tips on how you go about finding these mentors and finding these opportunities for yourself?
Yeah, so I think it was a lot of times it was by chance that I came about these people. One of them, and I think you probably know her, Ashley Bruce. She ran or she might still be running the HMB Slick. I actually took a seminar course with her in my first year. So that was how I initially knew her. And then throughout the focus, she was one of the faculty advisors. It was pretty much by chance, I would say. And then in my third and fourth years, as I worked in the lab that I'm currently at, my supervisor then, that was how as we worked over time together, that was how that kind of mentorship relationship developed. That advisor, supervisor, mentor relationship kind of developed. And I would also say throughout my coursework, in neuroscience. So Colleen Dockstader, who you took HMB 310 with, she's also a prof she is the one prof who kind of introduced me to neuroimaging. So I think having mentors in different aspects is really important. I'm not sure exactly how to answer your question of finding mentors, but I think being open is something that's really important, and it goes a long way, because being open to meeting new people, being not scared to reach out to people, I think those are all very important things. And as undergrads, it can be, in your undergrad, it can be very intimidating to go to office hours and to visit professors. And I remember when I was in undergrad, I pretty much avoided office hours, because if I didn't have a question, if I, had no reason to be there, I didn't think it was worth their time or my time to be there. And it wasn't until my third and fourth years where I had really targeted courses that I found really interesting, that I finally had reasons to go to office hours and to say, I have a really, interesting question here, because I read this paper, it said X, Y, Z, and, I'm really interested in this topic. It seems like what you're discussing in class is related to this because of whatever. And I think that's how some of those conversations start. But I think along those lines, a lot of times, how I kind of got my mentors, I guess, is that we had similar interests, similar academic interests, similar research interests, and that was kind of how that happened. And I think that's something that's really important to think about as well. A lot of times I think it's not you go out and you with the goal of finding a mentor, but you kind of go with the goal of discovering yourself and your interests. And along the way, that's how you might end up with someone who's willing to invest in you and willing to help you and guide you. And I think the sentiments from my mentors is that they also had mentors along their way, along their journey. And by training new students and by training students who one day will become their colleagues, that's kind of how they give back. And I think it's really interesting.
Based on all of your research experiences and how you found your interests now, what are you looking forward to in the future? Where are you hoping to take your research?
Something that I'm really interested in is looking at the intersection between neuroimaging and medicine and healthcare and computer science, because I think all of those aspects in the years to come really change how medicine and healthcare becomes more personalized and how we look at treatment and prognostics down the line. And I think neuroimaging, I say this with a very kind of nerdy touch, but I find looking at brains really fascinating. And so that's something that I'm also always going to probably feel. So that's probably going to stay as one of my passions and interests. But, I'm really interested to see how those fields kind of intersect. And we're already, I think, kind of seeing those intersections in the rise of machine learning and the rise of artificial intelligence. And I think in the years to come, seeing how that impacts treatment and prognostics will be really, really cool.